Hey everybody, so I'm going to be making this beautiful ear warmer. If you'd like to see how I did it, keep on watching. Alright guys, so today we're going to be doing a ear warmer and I'm going to be using the Big Twist yarn. It is in the color Soft Purple. I love this color, it's so pretty, so pale and then still vibrant. We're going to be using some scrap yarn. The scrap yarn is from a project I've used the yarn for before. And we're just going to weave it onto our Sentro machine here. And we're going to be doing the forward and backward looping as we turn our handle. So we're just going to go behind a needle, in front of another needle, behind, in front, until we get all the way around to that initial tail. That's going to be on needle 1. After we get it on needle 1, we're going to feed it through our tensioner and needle guide, and then we're just going to crank about 5 to 10 rows so that we'll be able to work easily on our project. Okay, so I am going to knot the project here, not knot it in a way that it's too hard to take off, but just a quick knot because my scrap yarn stopped short of where I wanted it to be, and so the knotting is gonna keep the two yarns together and just hold on to it until our project is completed. So I fed it through and then I started cranking a line. In this one, I grabbed the yarn from the body. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the tail of the yarn from the center of the yarn, the skein, so I had to do it from the body. I don't like this way at all. It is so hard because I have to keep stopping after cranking and pulling the yarn. As you can see, I have to keep stopping, pulling the yarn, come back to the cranking, and stopping again to pull the yarn and cranking again. We're gonna be using the striking method where I'm gonna write how many numbers. That's 120, and 1 stroke equals 10. I know that it comes with a counter, but I just do not trust my counter at all. It sometimes works, it sometimes doesn't. I can see from the video that my counter is on 5 rows, and I definitely have cranked about 10 rows already, and so that will show you that this counter is unreliable if you have the Sentro machine. Some of the Sentro machine folks do recommend getting a secondary attachment counter, which I'm planning to do at some point, but for now I like the method that I have. I just keep track of the numbers in my head and then write it down on my little piece of paper, and then I just keep going. It has worked for me, and that's fine. If you guys want to buy a counter, I can link one below of one that a lot of people say that's really good for the Sentro machine. But for now, I prefer to just do my strike method on a piece of paper that I have close by. Okay, so we're a little more than halfway through with the cranking of the Sentro. We're doing 120 rows. I suggest doing just a little bit less. The reason why I'm doing 120 is because I'm wearing box braids and it is also winter time in New York, or it's fall, I don't even know. But it's very cold and I get cold ears, I get a cold neck, and so I wanted the ear warmer to wrap around my ears properly. I also have these on my Poshmark storefront if you'd like to get this particular color made by me. I make them about the same, 90 to 120 on my Poshmark. So if you want to select a size that you think you like, whether you have big hair or you have not short hair but your hair density isn't as poofy or fluffy, you can get the one that's around 90. But it is good to have these at a decent length so that you account for different hairstyles like buns, just ponytails and things like that, so you're able to still use them. But I specifically made this 120 rows because I wanted it to be chunky enough to fit around my hair, my ear, and fit snugly and not tight. So I'm pulling my project out of the machine and just unraveling it just a little bit, but most importantly, I'm doing this and rolling it up like this because I don't want my machine to get choked up. Sometimes the machine just does get choked and you would want to either feed it through the legs there and kind of twist it counter to the side that the centro is going. So I believe the centro goes in a counterclockwise way. So you want to spin your cloth clockwise so that the machine unravels it as it goes counterclockwise. You'll see what I mean in subsequent videos. The machine doesn't get choked up to where it breaks, but it does add tensions to the needles and that can damage the machine, so you just don't want to do that. So you could do this method to help your project not be choked up and alleviate some pressure off of your machine. So here we have finished our project. I'm gonna give myself a long tail. The tail length, some people try to wrap it around their machines and try to see how much tail length they did or they need to finish the project. I attempted to do that, but I think it's a little bit silly. Just give yourself enough so you could finish your project off. And here I'm gonna go in with my scrap yarn. The scrap yarn is, of course, to keep your loops together, keep your project together until you are totally completed. I use a scrap yarn to do the slip stitch to seal my project, and then I would unravel the scrap yarn off and save it for subsequent projects. There, I just knotted it to keep the project together with the scrap yarn. You don't necessarily need to do that, but if you are a beginner, I would say you definitely need to do that because it could get a little bit confusing when you're doing your slip stitch on where the loops are and what's not a loop and what is. In this, I'm now off casting my project. I would go around and then backwards, or you could just go around twice. So you could go around the machine once after your scrap yarn has finished and then go backwards to off cast it, or you just go around your machine twice to do the off cast. So can see the stitches where you will be slip stitching all the way across like zippers, and then you see where your scrap yarn is. The color difference is very apparent. My needle is a 4 or 4.5. Here, I prefer to line them up so I know where I'm stitching it. Also, when you're lining up your stitches, you want to make sure your tail is at the very end of that top, so that when you get to the very end, you're able to pull that tail through to seal your project. When you're doing the slip stitch, you're just grabbing one stitch from one side and pulling it through to the other, and then grabbing the other stitch from the other side and pulling that through until you get to the very end. Of course, use your fingers to help you out as you need, because you may lose certain things, certain stitches, or the stabilizing for me isn't great. I also have carpal tunnel, so it's just beneficial for me to do different methods to alleviate the pain from my wrists when I do crocheting. I'm going to mostly be using my Sentro maybe now into forever, and then do minimal knits and crocheting methods, because I'm not capable of doing it with my hands due to my carpal tunnel. So I'm so glad I discovered the Sentro machine. I love crafting. I love everything about it. It's so relaxing and things like that. But I unfortunately can't do too much crafting that requires me to, hold my needle for extensive amounts of time. Yeah. A nice sweet slip stitch all the way through, and now we're gonna do the either side. Again, you gotta line up the tail with your line of sight, and you go all the way over. So once you slip stitch all the way through, you could pull the tail right on through that last loop and secure it with a nice little tight tug. Finished our slip stitch all the way through for both ends, we are going to start unraveling the waste yarn on both sides. It is exceptionally satisfying to watch the unraveling of this, but it can get a little tedious because of the long tail that we saved. And look how beautiful that looks. one, we're going to be saving this scrap yarn for later. This little tail is going to get woven into our project here just to secure that tail in there. This way it prevents it from unraveling. And then we have both our sides finished with a long tail. Yay! So here I'm going to get a needle. This is a knitting needle, crochet needle, whatever you want to call it. And then we're going to feed it through with the tail that's attached. And then we're just going to create 2 V shapes on either side of the head warmer and then put them interlocking each other like this. And then we're going to just sew these pieces all together. I used the slip stitch at the top that we stitched there to get them. I just put it through the 2 slip stitches and then sew it through. And you just go back and forth till the very end. Some people would go over. I feel like it becomes a little bit too bulky and a little bit ugly when you do it that way. And I did it that way several times before, and it just made my project super bulky once I flipped it to reveal the twist front that this method creates. And it didn't look appealing once you put it on your head. So I would say this back and forth method is ideal, and you get to pull the yarn tight to keep the project from unraveling. So I like this method better than the other one that I've tried before, just going back and forth until you're done. Then you want to feed the needle through the entire project just to get a little bit more of a secure finish as well, like all the way through, and then pull it through. I would do this at least 2 to 3 times. I don't know how many times it's good enough, but just do it as many times as you feel like, okay, this first one is good. I had a little trouble getting it through the second time here. Maybe I'm trying to be a little bit too secure. I think I banged it on something just to get it through, and then I was like, okay, that security is good. And then I just do it in segments this time, just to give it a little bit more of a secure, because I don't want this to unravel at all. And then you just come in with your scissors and you just cut that off. And then here we're going to flip it over to reveal our twist. Look at that beautiful twist. Again, guys, this headband is a little bit bigger, but I love it so much. I really wanted it for my braids. I also have little handmade leather tags. I don't know if they're made of real leather. They're probably, synthetic leather. Here it is, handmade with love, and I'm just going to sew it on that. This needle has a huge butt, so I'm going to try to go find a metal needle and thread it up, and then we're going to go ahead and start attaching that handmade with love tag. These handmade with love tags are really cute for selling and things like that. So here's the needle again. So it is the ideal tag to attach to your project if you're going to sell this at some point. And then once you sell them on pages like Etsy, I'm on Poshmark. I feel like Poshmark is a little bit easier of a platform for me, but you could sell these wherever you want to sell them, in person, online, wherever you want. And yeah, so definitely would recommend getting these handmade ones. I'll try to tag where I got these from in the description because I can't quite remember, but they are super stinking cute. Alright, my loves, there you have it, a beautiful ear warmer headband. Please like, comment, and subscribe.